Welcome back. Thanks for joining me again. So, if you are a freelancer who uses Microsoft 365, you've probably heard the term Power Platform floating around, but you may not be sure of exactly what it includes. I know that for the longest time I didn't. And I feel like most freelancers are not entirely sure of what it is or why it would matter for your business. But today I have an answer for you after becoming more informed. Power Platform is a suite of low-code and no-code tools from Microsoft that lets you automate tasks, build custom apps, analyze data, and create intelligent workflows without needing to be a developer. I think that they're pretty awesome. And for freelancers, I feel like it's potentially a game changer for your productivity, your client deliverables, and even expanding your service offerings. But let's talk about that more in a moment. So again, what is Power Platform? Well, it's comprised of several different things that work together and also integrate seamlessly across Microsoft 365, which many of you are probably already using. The first application is Power Automate. It used to be known as Microsoft Flow, if that's something that sounds familiar to you. Think about this one as your personal automation assistant. Power Automate lets you create workflows that automatically handle your repetitive tasks. So, what can you do? Well, just a few examples are you could automatically save email attachments to a specific place in OneDrive or SharePoint. You could get notifications in Teams when clients fill out a form. I personally enabled that one, and I'm really enjoying it. You could also send automated follow-up emails based on certain triggers. So if you've ever thought, I wish this task would just do itself, Power Automate is probably your answer. The second application within Power Platform is Power Apps. Now, Power Apps let you build custom applications without having to write code. Fabulous for those of us who left coding behind quite a while ago. You can create apps for yourself, your team, or even your clients using a mostly drag and drop interface. So what are some examples of what you can do with Power Apps? Well, you could ask a client to complete an intake form that feeds directly into your project management system. Or you could create a simple inventory tracker for your business. Or you could create a mobile app for some of your contractors, if you do subcontract, to submit certain reports. There's a lot of things that you can do with Power Apps. So while you're not building the next Instagram here, you can create a functional professional business app that does solve specific problems within your business. And then there's Power BI. I've been using Power BI for several years, and Power BI is a data visualization and business intelligence tool. It basically takes your data and allows you to turn it into an interactive dashboard or a report that's actually useful. So what can you do with Power BI? Well, you can visualize your freelance income trends over time. You can create a client-facing report that pulls in various information that you could share with them. Or you could simply build a dashboard that tracks various project metrics in real time. So if you've ever struggled to make sense of spreadsheet data or wanted to present information in a more compelling way, then Power BI is a tool that you likely want to look into. Additionally, there's one more component called Power Pages. Now, Power Pages let you build external facing websites that connect your data and workflows. Think about it as a client portal, booking sites, or knowledge bases. This is the least commonly used by individual freelancers. I can say that I personally have not used this aspect yet, but I have been told that it can be powerful for certain business models. It just hasn't had a match with my business model yet, personally. So, speaking of my personal experience, as I mentioned, I've been a Power BI user for years. I feel like it's been an essential tool for me for visualizing my data and creating reports for clients. I like using Power BI and I'm comfortable with it. I use it regularly. However, Power Apps and Power Automate, those were completely new to me until recently. So if you've been following along and listening to some of my other blog posts, you know that in a previous blog post, I discussed having to learn a new software for a client training. Basically, the story was I initially said no when a company that I work for asked me to teach Power Apps and Power Automate and Power BI. I didn't know Power Apps and Power Automate, so I really did not want to put myself forward for that training. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to invest the time to learn them just to teach the class, because obviously that is a really time-saving component. But the person who owned the company is a friend of mine, and he really wanted me to do it. He also built in dedicated time that they paid me to learn the software before teaching. So I somewhat reluctantly agreed, but dove in because I wanted to give the people who were inevitably going to be in this class the best experience. And honestly, after it's all over, I'm glad I did. Learning Power Apps and Power Automate really opened my eyes to how much more I could do personally in my business with the Power Platform ecosystem. I went from being a Power BI person to understanding how all these three tools work together and how powerful that combination can be. Well, you want to hear the coolest part of the story so far, at least from my lens, is I actually built my own Power App to replace that income tracking app that I wrote about in an earlier blog post. I'm not sure if you remember. It was called I Save Money. That was the app I was using to track all my income. Well, I ended up getting tired of working around some of its limitations. It's not a bad app. It's a great app. It was working for me, well for a few months, but then I decided that I wanted to do something a little differently and it wasn't meeting those needs. So I ended up building my own income tracking app in Power Apps, and it's designed exactly how I want it to, with custom fields in my own layout. It's simple, but it's functional. The data is structured the way that makes sense for my business. So I don't have to worry about any workarounds. And even though the I Save Money was free on the first tier or a low cost on the second tier, I'm actually saving money because this is included with my existing Microsoft subscription. So that's the power of Power Apps. If an off-the-shelf solution doesn't quite fit your needs, you can probably build your own, especially if it's not that complex. And Eventually, I'll walk you through exactly how I did that, but that'll be a future blog post because it would make this one way too long if I explained it here. So, why do I think Power Platform is relevant even if you're a solo operation like I am? Well, one, because you can automate the boring stuff. Power Automate can handle repetitive tasks like saving files, sending follow-up emails, and moving data between apps. So therefore, the time that you save is time that you can spend on billable work or enjoying yourself. And you know how I'm an advocate of that. The second reason is that you can actually build solutions for clients when you get better at it. And I know that my own personal head was spinning on that. Is that something that I want to do in the future? Being able to build a Power app or set up a Power automation workflow for a small business could be a very valuable service that you could potentially offer when you get better at this. And obviously, this is another source of income that you could have. Again, you could also work smarter with your data. Power BI really does help you make sense of your own business data, and it also helps you visualize that data to clients, whether it's their data or your data. Being able to build that real-time dashboard is definitely powerful. Now, the other nice thing about Power Platform, as I mentioned earlier, is that you can integrate the tools that you likely already use. Power Platform works seamlessly with Microsoft 365 and hundreds of other apps. Now, of course, if you're integrating other apps, it's usually a premium feature and there's usually an additional cost associated with it. But you can branch out beyond those Microsoft apps in many cases if you wish. It will let you create workflows that connect all the tools you're already using, potentially. Then remember that in this case, low code means that this is possible for you to learn somewhat easily. You don't need to be a programmer. If you can use Excel formulas and navigate Microsoft 365 with ease, then I'm confident that you too could learn Power Platform. But it's a matter of building and learning to build exactly what you need. You're not limited to whatever features a third-party app decided to include, like I was with my income tracking app. In this case, you can build something that works exactly the way that you work. So who should use Power Platform? Well, that's a really good question. I think that you should consider learning and using it if you do a lot of repetitive administrative tasks that you feel like could be automated. You work with other small business clients who need simple custom solutions. That would be the circumstance where maybe you decide to expand your services. If you manage projects or data and want better ways to track and visualize your information, if you want to expand your service offerings, as we already mentioned, beyond your core expertise. If you already use Microsoft heavily and want to get more out of it, or if you get frustrated with apps that almost do what you want, but not quite exactly. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There is a learning curve to learning this. I spent hours. I devoted weekends to learning these applications, but I do feel like it was beneficial to me in the end. Power Platform is powerful, but it's also complex. You're not going to master it in a weekend. But the good news is that Microsoft offers a ton of free learning paths through Microsoft Learn, where they give you step-by-step tutorials. So that is good news. The good news is that this is Power Platform, that is is included in most of the Microsoft, if you have a Microsoft Business subscription that you use for your freelance business, it's likely already included. So it wouldn't be an additional payment. Now, of course, you'll have to check that out with your individual subscription and make sure that that's true for what you have. But I know I personally did not have to add on to the license that I already had to be able to develop all of this. Also, I've learned that the Power Platform community is huge. There are tons of YouTube tutorials. I watched a ton of YouTube tutorials learning this. So it's something where you can check out a YouTube video, a forum, or a template if needed. You can also start small with simple automations or a simple app or a simple visualization. We all start somewhere, so it doesn't have to be advanced the first time that you use it. So if you're someone like me who initially said, no, I don't want to learn this, I would encourage you to try to learn it. I feel like you can pick it up well enough. If I was able to teach it and build my own custom app, then you can definitely learn the basics to use it in your own business. So if you're intrigued and you want to start exploring, I'd say check to see if you already have access. Again, if you do have a Microsoft 365 subscription, especially if it's a business subscription, you probably already have access to the Power Platform tools. You can go to make.powerapps.com or make.powerautomate.com to test for yourself with those. And then you would see them in your app picker, obviously. I'd also suggest starting with Power Automate. When I was first planning the class, I was going to start with Power Apps. And once I got into this, I switched it on my own without even seeing any advice from someone else to start with Power Automate. It's the most immediately useful tool for freelancers, and it has the most gentle learning curve out of all of them, in my opinion. I'd also say to explore Microsoft Learn and those other resources that I mentioned for guided tutorials for Power Platform. And then honestly, a lot of what you would have to do is to sit back and really think about your pain points. What repetitive tasks are eating up your time? What apps are you using that almost do what you need? Start with those. Because the bottom line is that Power Platform isn't a magic bullet, but it's a powerful set of tools that can help you work smarter, serve your clients better, and reclaim time that you're currently spending on repetitive tasks. You don't need to become a Power Platform expert overnight, but understanding what's possible and learning a few key skills can genuinely give you a competitive advantage as a freelancer. So in upcoming posts, I will show you specific use cases with step-by-step instructions so you could start implementing these tools into your own workflow online. That way, whether you're automating your invoice or building a custom app for yourself or for a client, or just trying to visualize your business data, you'll have a step-by-step on how to do it. So stay tuned. It's going to be useful. Thank you so much for tuning in. If this was useful to you, please support the channel, like and subscribe, and maybe even share it with a friend. Thanks so much. Take care.